If you've ever worked with AI assistants, you probably know the feeling. They're incredibly powerful, right? But trying to get them to work together on anything complex can feel like herding cats. You've got this explosion of capability, but it's all just so messy. Well, a whole new category of software is starting to pop up to bring some order to that chaos, and it's called an agent OS.
And check this out. This quote from a developer on Reddit just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the problem. You ask for one simple thing, and the AI, trying to be helpful, optimizes your code in a way that just completely torches your plans for the next 3 features. It's this frustrating cycle of 1 step forward, 2 steps back, where you're just cleaning up the mess.
And this really gets to the heart of the issue, what we're calling AI agent chaos. The problem isn't that the AIs aren't smart enough. They absolutely are. It's that they're missing that fundamental structure, that context, to handle complex, multi-step work without you holding their hand the whole time. They're kind of like brilliant interns who have zero memory and no manager.
So this chaos, it shows up in a few key ways, right? The agents have no memory of the last task, so they end up rewriting half your project by accident. Their workflows are totally unpredictable. And of course, you've got the classic AI move, completely hallucinating a solution out of thin air that derails the entire plan, leaving you to pick up the pieces. So, how in the world do you fix this? Well, a new open-source project called OpenFang is proposing a pretty radical solution. Instead of just giving agents more tools, it gives them something way more fundamental, an entire operating system to live and work in.
Okay, so what exactly is an agent OS? Well, think about your computer's operating system for a second. It manages memory, tasks, security, and it lets all your different programs work together without crashing. That's exactly what an agent OS is trying to do, but for AI. It creates this durable, auditable environment that provides rules and governance, not just a bunch of disconnected tools.
And if you're thinking an operating system sounds big and heavy and bloated, you'd be wrong. Get this, the entire OpenFang application, which is built in the programming language Rust, compiles down to a single file that's only about 32 megabytes. That is just incredibly efficient.
And that efficiency, it doesn't stop with the file size. When it's just sitting there, idle, waiting for a task, it uses about 40 megabytes of RAM. That is so small you could easily run it on a cheap $5 a month server or even something like a Raspberry Pi. It makes this kind of power accessible to pretty much anyone.
Putting that efficiency into context really makes it even more impressive. I mean, look at this. Compared to a tool like OpenClaw, which can chew up almost 400 megabytes of RAM just sitting there and has a 500 megabyte installation, OpenFang is in a completely different league of performance. It's not even close.
But efficiency is just the start. What truly makes OpenFang feel like a real operating system is a feature it calls hands.
So a hand is basically a pre-built autonomous agent that you don't even have to prompt. You just activate it and it runs on a schedule, totally in the background, doing its job and reporting its progress back to a dashboard. This is a huge shift, right? We're going from a reactive chatbot to a proactive autonomous worker.
And they can do some seriously cool things. The researcher hand, for example, can do deep research and generate reports complete with citations. The lead hand can automate your daily sales lead generation. My favorite, though, has got to be the clip hand. You just give it a YouTube URL and it automatically cuts it into vertical shorts, adds captions, and gets them ready for social media, all on its own. It's amazing.
Now, as we were digging into this project, we ran into a little bit of a snag. Turns out this isn't the first open source project to use this name, which, could lead to some real confusion.
Yeah, a really savvy person out there might be thinking this exact question. And you know what? You'd be right. There is another project called OpenFang, but it's from back in 2019 and has absolutely nothing to do with AI. It's custom firmware for hacking security cameras.
So just to be super clear, we're talking about 2 completely different projects that just happen to share a name. The one we're focused on today is the new AI Agent OS built in Rust. The other one is that 2019 project for cameras. Mystery solved.
And that clarification is important because what's happening here is so much bigger than just one tool. OpenFang isn't just an interesting project. It's really a signpost for a major shift in how we're all thinking about building with AI.
And this, right here, is the key takeaway. We are witnessing the very beginning of a brand new category of software. We're moving beyond simple apps and frameworks and into the era of dedicated operating systems, designed from the ground up specifically to manage artificial intelligence.
And this isn't some fringe idea either. This exact sentiment is bubbling up all over the developer community.
As this developer put it, maybe that whole chat app with plugins model we've been using is just fundamentally flawed for building serious autonomous systems. And maybe they're right. Maybe they should be architected like operating systems.
And that leaves us with a massive question for the future. As we move from these simple AI tools to full-fledged agent operating systems, it changes everything. What does that really mean for the software we build, for the security we need, and maybe most importantly, for our ability to control these increasingly autonomous systems? That's the big question we'll all be figuring out next.